Hi guys, Romans here and welcome to the first video in my new series called A Guide To, where I take a look at the discography of a certain artist or a band and I give you the tips which records to start with if you want to get into this artist and which records to listen to next. I also review all of the albums from a viewpoint of a musician, as I am a singer, songwriter and a bass player for my own group Jakobe, and almost 3 years ago we released our debut album called Pursuits in Life. What makes it unique is that it's a heavy prog rock without guitars. Instead you have drums, bass, saxophone and keyboards. You can check out all of our music videos on my YouTube channel. And in the description of all these videos you will find all the information about where is the record available. It's available on all digital platforms like Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, iTunes, Amazon, Bandcamp, but also in this digipack version of a CD with a very beautiful illustrated 20 pages long booklet. So in case you want one, all you need to do is contact me via email, on Facebook or on Instagram, or you can get one through Bandcamp as well. And today I'm going to give you a guide to Conception. Music review. Music review. Conception is a Norwegian prog metal band and one of my all-time favorite bands in the genre. And for a very long time they were almost exclusively a 90s band, releasing records from 1991 until 1997, 4 albums that is, and after that they disbanded. The guitar player Roy Odsby, he went on to form, he's a brilliant guitar player by the way, he went on to form Ark, another one of my all-time favorite prog metal bands, and they're going to be in the second video in this series, so be sure to check that out. Then he retired. I think that the drummer retired from the music business, the bass player formed some sort of a death metal band, and the singer and the frontman Roy Khan went on to sing and front one of the most successful American melodic metal bands, Camelot, from 1998 until 2010, making 6 records in the meantime. So, with Conception, we're gonna take a look at their first 4 albums. So let's start at the very beginning. So they released their first album in 1991 called The Last Sunset, and this is probably their most metal album, which is very well sort of showcased in the track Building a Force, which is like this technical speed power metal song. I don't believe in the world of violence. We're building a force, making a force feel of safety. Then we've got War of Hate, and this is one of the things that made Conception very unique. They experimented with combining metal with Latino/flamenco music, which on paper may sound a bit weird, but it's a great concept. And it's a bit of a shame that they didn't really experiment outside of the first album, because on all the other records there are like one moment, but they didn't really go full album with that, which is kind of a shame. But the guitar player Roy Odsby, he actually went full album with that concept. It's gonna be in the next video. So this track War of Hate is like a good metal song, nothing really too exceptional, but how they transform into that Latino part, it's just amazing. I like that gang choir in Another World. The title track, The Last Sunset, is a beautiful ballad. I love how it has very gentle verses that are almost in that AOR territory.
I'm trembling with wrath, I know. Am I worthy such a sight? Who am I to feel joy in lack of insight?
Live to Survive is a real headbanger. I love this track. This is one of the best moments on the album. The album ends with an almost 11 minutes long Among the Gods, which is the best example of this clash of Latino and metal. And they kind of switch between the two quite often during this track, but it works, and this is just such a great concept. I think that they maybe should have experimented a little more with this, because it's really very unique. But there are also some weaker tracks like Bow Down with Sorrow or Fairies Dance. Like, generally this album has a much weaker production, and in terms of songwriting they weren't really quite there. So the first album is not necessarily a very good starting point. I would kind of get to it a little later. So let's go to their second album, Parallel Minds, from 1993, and this is actually the best starting point for this band and their best album in my opinion. This is a brilliant record. I love it, and the brilliance of this record is pretty well highlighted by the opening track Water Confines, where we have that great riff, excellent melody, and generally just a very unique take on the prog metal genre.
One step behind. My dream was my way. Patience to play. A lifetime in the vein. The time is sometimes the water confines.
Roll the Fire is, to my knowledge, their only song that they shot a music video for, and this is just one of the best songs in the genre. It has a great riff, fantastic chorus where he kind of does this thing that he kept doing on quite many songs, where he sings it relatively high but also an octave lower, creating this interesting octave effect, and he used it quite a lot.
In spite of my fear, I call your name once again. Blind by the light of day. Save me from solitude.
Another great tune is And I Close My Eyes.
Dip of your mind, vision design, now in a veil. A degree is back, I do what I can to keep your intentions.
Then we have a beautiful ballad, Silent Crying, that starts acoustically. We hear piano, we hear nylon stringed guitar, but then essentially it kind of builds up and we hear this big powerful chorus.
What no one else will ever know. Silent crying from a childhood gone by.
The title track, Parallel Minds, is great, and I think that what makes it even more great is the addition of keyboards.
Easy to say, it's got cause to know. Repair our minds. You gave me some.
Silver Shine has slow and melancholic verses and a heavy riff-based chorus.
I see clearly now, lies we shed will never die. Awake me strong and courage.
My Decision has a very interesting riff. I love how he uses harmonics in that riff, and every time the harmonics gets shorter by half, which is this very little detail that I've noticed just recently in the summer when I revisited their music. And I like the dark chorus of this song. The Promiser has slower verses that kind of keep building up, and this is generally more like a prog rock song.
His name attempt. Many trusts his lies, but what a comfort when election day is past.
Wolf's Lair is a headbanger reminiscent of Live to Survive from their first album. A great song, and I love how this song kind of shows that a song can be really heavy, even with a singer who uses a very, very clean voice. And the final closing track is almost 9 minutes long, Soliloquy, which is like this epic prog rock tune. Before I talk about one more song on this album, none of their records are available on any of the streaming services. You can't even buy them officially, like on CDs. There's no remastered version or anything. So I guess the only way how you can actually get those records is by downloading them from somewhere, which is kind of a shame. The reason for this may be that they don't own the rights for their own music. I have their first 3 albums, if I remember correctly, Parallel Minds and In Your Multitude. I bought those from eBay. And the first album, there was some kind of a collector who was selling off his collection of CDs, and I stumbled upon this, so I bought it. Of course, none of these really made the band earn any money from me, so it's just more like being happy to have something in my collection. But the album originally has 10 songs, and there was one bonus track, and shame on Conception that they didn't include it on an official album, because this is such a brilliant track, and it's a track called Black on Black. You can actually find it in 2 versions on YouTube. One version is like more metal, more raw, and I really love the heavier parts in it. And then there's a longer version that has this beautiful flamenco part in the middle. It's just brilliant. This is like one of a very few times they kind of experimented with that metal/Latino music. And I really like it, even though I prefer the majority of the song from that raw version. But, you know, that flamenco part really makes up for it. And once again, this song should have been on the record because it's so brilliant. It's one of their best songs. So if you ever listen to this record and do yourself a favor, listen to this record. You're gonna thank me later. Get it with this bonus track or find it or whatever. It's a great song. Let's go to their third studio album, In Your Multitude, from 1995. This is basically a carbon copy of Parallel Minds, very much the same album. It's a fantastic record, and this is a logical continuation for you. So once you get familiar with Parallel Minds, this is the second album you should listen to. And again, the style of the record is kind of showcased in the opening track, Under a Morning Star, where we have these great riffs and a memorable chorus. Then Missionary Man is a riff-driven song, and I like that it's riff-driven even in the chorus. It's really great.
I provide you shelter from the cold, so gotta rock my feet before the missionary man.
Retrospect is a more of a prog rock song. It has a great chorus, and once again we hear him doing this octave singing.
But the healing has been lost to the living, and I am no longer the world with the earth without me.
Guilt has a pretty doomy chorus.
Be my mind.
Sanctuary is an acoustic ballad, but unlike Silent Crying, it remains acoustic throughout its whole running time.
You won't find the treasure below the rainbow's edge. Black and white are strangers to the pictures of...
A Million Gods is almost 8 minutes long, and we have here this flamenco part, which is just awesome. Some Wounds has a very cool riff. I love like ta 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 ta, and it just keeps going like that. Very cool riff. And this song kind of falls into that power metal category. Carnal Comprehension, what a name, is slightly more laid-back rock song. Then Solar Serpent is a fantastic headbanger, absolutely love this track. In Your Multitude, the title track, is kind of slower, melancholic, heavy song. And then we have a bonus track, Gravity, which is slightly more in the style of the first album. I think it's a really great metal track. Okay, and their final studio album before their comeback, which I'm gonna get back to in a minute, was Flow from 1997, and this is pretty strange album. It's more rock than metal, and for me personally, this is their weakest studio album. So personally, I would leave this as the last record to get into. So the opening track, and I'm not sure how it's pronounced, Gethsemane, whatever, you know, it kind of continues, this track kind of continues the style of the previous two albums. Then Angel, Come Walk With Me have a very strong late 90s industrial vibes.
Inside me. Nothing can be right if there is no wrong.
Virtual Love Story has some electronic elements, which is something that I think if they continued, they would maybe experiment with a little more. Flow has a cool riff, and this could be a radio single. Then we have a power ballad, Cry. Then Reach Out. I do have to say that this album definitely has a style and a sound of its own. And this track, Reach Out, there is this riff that always reminded me of that advertisement piracy is crime. Remember when I was like teenager and my mom used to borrow movies on VHS and DVDs, as that was a thing like 10-15 years ago. There was this advertisement about how, you know, you wouldn't steal a car, you wouldn't steal a TV, why should you steal a movie or something, you know, about downloading. And there was this kind of a theme or riff going on, and I don't know, this track just always reminded me of that. Tell Me When I'm Gone has a great riff. Then another ballad is Hold On.
Won't you hold on, and we'll be forgiven, just you hold on, I'll always be there.
Cardinal Sin is a pretty epic prog rock song with that late 90s mood. Hand on Heart is probably the only metal song on this album. And then Would It Be the Same is similarly riff-based track as the Some Wounds from the previous album, and kind of their like typical chorus. So I think that this is their, despite the fact that this is more of a rock album rather than metal album, I think that this is their hardest album to get into, and when I revisited them in summer, this was the album I found the least interesting. They actually had a comeback in 2018, which was emphasized by an EP, and then in 2020, so last year, they actually released their follow-up album to The Flow, which was their first new album in 23 years, which is pretty amazing. I made a review for that album, that's why I'm not gonna talk about it in this video. The album is called State of Deception and it's a great record. Be sure to check the review out if you're interested. Let's just sum it up. If you want to get into this band, I would start with Parallel Minds, then listen to In Your Multitude. After that, it's up to you. You can either go to their latest album, State of Deception, or their debut album, The Last Sunset, and their fourth album, Flow, is the one I would leave at the very end, only if you are a really big fan of the band. Who knows, maybe that's gonna be your favorite. If you like this video and if you like the videos I'm making, consider supporting me by purchasing my debut album Pursuits in Life. Because I include audio samples in my videos and thus making them the most informative and entertaining to watch, I usually run a risk of getting a copyright claim, meaning that I won't be able to monetize these videos, and whatever money I earn goes to the authors of the audio samples, which I have no problems with. These bands and artists deserve all the support. But these videos are extremely time consuming, so the best and the only way how to support me is by buying my debut album. And if you like Conception, you're gonna like this record as well. Do you agree with me? If you are a Conception fan, you can let me know in the comment section below whether you agree with my picks. If not, you can let me know which ones would you start with, maybe which one is your favorite record. And if you have never heard about them, you can let me know whether you found them interesting. You can follow me on Facebook or on Instagram. You can find links to both in the description of this video below. Also, if you like this review, don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. You can check out my own original music, my live performances, my worst to best series, and quite a lot of other reviews and videos as well. Thanks a lot for watching.